Good afternoon, everyone. After two rounds of fantastic interaction from the stalwarts of leaders from the industry on the inaugural day, Journalscope 2021 has gained momentum, and the students from the Department of Media Science of the Heritage Academy, are delighted to see the ball rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second and concluding day of Journalscope 2021. Today we have two more important sessions and I'm sure there's a lot in store. My name is Ridhima Talukdar, an undergraduate student of the Heritage Academy, and I'm privileged to welcome our guest, Mr. Kaushik Deka, who is the Deputy Editor of India Today and a very well respected journalist in the news circuit of India. Mr. Deka, welcome to Journalscope 2021.
And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak to students. I'm not too sure how much I would be able to enlighten because I'm still learning the ropes of journalism, but I'll try my best. And I think I gather some courage seeing Arjun, who used to be my colleague, and we did several adventurous trips and stories together from the same group in 2012. In fact, we jumped into a riot and we had many fascinating experiences which we cherish. But today's subject about this digital media and maintaining the objectivity. Today is a wonderful day in a sense that the whole media world is shattered by two things. One is the WhatsApp chats of a very famous journalist who happens to be my home state, Assam. So I am more interested in knowing the details of it. And
Sorry
the
for
second,
interrupting, Kaushik. We are
yeah,
not recording anything, so we can take names.
no, I have no issues with that. I can very well take name. It's
The
Arnab
morning has
Goswami.
rocked with Arnab Goswami's WhatsApp chat records
Yeah,
with.
and frankly speaking, I'm very fond of Arnab Goswami in a sense that when I was a student and then I was starting my initial days in journalism, he was very kind. By that time, he was a big name, but he was very kind, and he said one thing to me which I practice. I don't know whether he practices or not, but I still practice that to be a journalist, you don't need to have a social life and you don't need to go party hopping. Party, I don't mean political party, but the other kind of party, or spend a lot of time on in press club. All you need to do is that you do your hard work on the ground and then have a life of your own. I definitely practice that. I detach my work and personal life because it's very important for a journalist because quite often we interact a lot with people who are in powerful positions, and after a point we start assuming that we are also part of that power structure. The moment you start assuming that and you try to do something more than giving information to the public, then you end up being in trouble. The troubles can come in many ways, and the biggest trouble is that compromising your own integrity, which I think is the most crucial thing for a journalist. Jokes apart, Arnab Goswami chats and Nidhi Razdan's scam is a big jolt. These two things are a big jolt for the media industry and for people in general, and that gives us this a very significant time for us to discuss about the objectivity in digital media. Now, though I have often preferred print media and I have stuck to print media for a long time. I have spent around 15 years in India Today magazine itself. But I started my career in digital media, which is the newspaper today, first digital newspaper of India, again by India Today Group. The problem that I faced over there, and I saw it as a problem, is the necessity of the speed, the desperation for speed, breaking the news. And there is nothing wrong in breaking the news or giving it first to the people. But when you go for speed, the main problem, the biggest problem with digital media is that that desperation for speed, it often compromises your facts. For instance, if I give this example quite often. For instance, something happens on a road. There is an accident. Now you don't know whether the accident is because of the truck driver's fault or because of the person driving the mark. Because when someone drives a luxury car, it often becomes a news. Now, the moment you report the news as truck driver hits a car and you write it that way as a headline, probably you would not get much traction, which is a dangerous thing for digital media. So, in the name of hits, you spice up things, and then you do not have the time to authenticate information, whose fault it was, because you need time to get the facts. It cannot happen that the accident happened at 11 a.m. and you break the information at 11:02 or 11:03. You would not have all the information, and in the process you compromise the factual part of the story. Now, how do you deal with that? To me, the easy way out is that you break information in parts, and you at the same time you give out that this is not authenticated. This part we haven't got. There is nothing wrong with that. You have already told the viewers that you have the information that an accident has happened. There is no need to jump to conclusion. Now, many people will say, and when I'm addressing this issue, I'm trying to tackle it from a very pragmatic point of view. I would not get into the theoretical part. The problems that you will face in the newsroom, because in the newsroom, if you work for a digital media, the constant pressure will be on your likes, hits, and the traction. Now, if you give a very dead headline that accident happened on so and so road, hardly anybody will read, and you would not get the traction, and your editors will shout at you. And of course, it will have some financial implications also on the website. So, how do you tackle with that part? This is where your skill set as a journalist comes in. Who is a journalist? Anybody who gives information cannot be journalist, because then everyone is giving information to everyone. Otherwise, in today's time in a digital media, everyone is becoming journalists, because anybody can send out information through WhatsApp, through Twitter, through Facebook, with multiple sources. So one thing for a journalist is that to give out first factual information, and second is in an interesting way. What is an interesting way? The to present a fact in a way that appeals to the reader, that you can connect with the reader. Now, I cannot describe that in a speech, because it needs a lot of hard work and in the what you say in the newsroom. You have to understand this, that I have two examples. For instance, if you remember, there was a show on TV, Satyamev Jayate, which was done by a superstar. Now, many people will say that a superstar has done that story, that show, that's why it was hit. Maybe it was hit. In that case, for a newspaper, for a news agency, for a website, that superstar part is the website or the newspaper itself. Because if you are working for India Today Group, you will definitely have a particular traction, because some people will associate with yourself unless you are a new website. So I'm tackling it from the point of view of a reputed website. So you have taken care of that superstar appeal and the traction part. Now, what was the key issue in that series? We have seen many series, such series where the social issues are tackled, drinking or untouchability, or the police, the problems that a junior constable will face in the police force, and all those things. But we rarely pay attention. If you do a documentary of such type, hardly anyone will buy that documentary. So why that show was so hit? Because it did a lot of research to connect with the audience. It tried to understand what people will look for, how a person sitting in his home will spend an hour watching that show. So a lot of hard work and a lot of processing went into it. So for a journalist, presentation, first factual information is the groundwork, and the presentation is key, and that is more important in digital media, because in digital media you have the problem of speed. When you have the problem of speed, you have to be very careful how you present your story, because your readers are mostly young readers, at least today. Maybe 20 years down the line, when we will grow old, we will be readers, and then you will have a huge demography of from 20 to maybe 70 years old demography. But currently in India, if we talk about in Indian context, the readership is mostly young on digital platform, and they have little patience, and in today's life they have little time as well, and the distractions are many, because you do not have only 5 competitors, you have 500 competitors. Everybody is seeking the reader's attention. So in that context, the more focus should be given to, once you have the accurate information, how you present that information in an interesting way. And that is one thing Arjun and your institute will teach you, which is very important, because most journalists, they ignore that part. Now I come to the bigger issue in digital platform. In digital platform, and when I say digital platform, there are three things in it. One is the websites, news website. One is the social media platforms. And the third one is, I do not call it social media platform, but instant messaging services like WhatsApp, now Telegram, tomorrow it would be Signal. Now you get a lot of information packaged as news. And in that context, as a reader also, it's very difficult to decipher what is true and what is not true. And for journalists, we face a lot of competition, because uh, as Madam rightly pointed out, the fake news disease. That fake news, there are lots of fake news which are packaged as news, and in the competition, you at times regular journalists also succumb to those things. Like if a fake news is spread on Twitter, then everybody, in the name of breaking the news or not feeling left behind, they will pick it up without validating it, because the speed is the key here. Now, what has happened is that because of that, gradually people are losing trust on digital platform. Over a period of time, maybe everybody is now taking all sorts of news with a pinch of salt. They're being skeptical about what is being told on the digital media platform. And this is where the opportunity and challenges for journalists lie. Why I'm saying so is that uh, whenever there is a doubtful news or information, now people generally, when they used to get info from every sources and they didn't care about whether the source is authentic or not, over a period of time, as the fake news is spreading, it's becoming viral, they are getting into the regular or traditional websites. Like they will check on India Today, they will check on Hindu, they will check on Telegraph or Times of India, because at least they have this accountability factor. So this is where this is an opportunity for us. Now we have two ways to, in the name of speed, we can go for whatever news comes our way, we'll spread it first and then we'll see whether it's true or not. Or we take a pause, we authenticate, and we make people aware that this is right, this is wrong. And a lot of media houses are coming up with the fake news busting platforms, or separate news for fake news tracking and all that, which is good. But that will grow more organically, and in future this is emerging as a separate trend of journalism, in a sense that there is sport journalism, political journalism, economic journalism, and now the fake news buster is a very serious and important part of journalism, where a lot of opportunities will come up. Now, to remain unbiased and objective, this is very difficult. I'm pretty sure every one of us, as a journalist, I have opinion. You all have opinion on multiple issues. But before you have opinion, you have to understand the day you become a journalist, what is your first job? Your first job is to give accurate, authentic information in a designed in a way that appeals to the readers, or that makes sense to the reader. Not giving out information, even if it is authentic and accurate, randomly is not your job. You have to package it in a way that you understand your target reader. Like for instance, someone was telling me the other day, the Twitter handle of Assam's most respected English newspaper, Assam Tribune, they quite often pass on information about what Donald Trump is doing, what Narendra Modi is doing in Tamil Nadu. Now, the Assam Tribune readership is not based in Rajasthan or Delhi or Gujarat. And if anyone has to know about Donald Trump or Joe Biden, they will go to international websites, or even the national websites which are which have some global connection. For instance, they will go for Times of India or India Today. Definitely not Assam Tribune. So they're missing out. They may be giving the accurate and authentic information, but they're missing out the target audience. That's why they would not get traction. And it's very important in digital media to understand who will come to you. Why you must understand first who is your reader, who will read your news on digital platform. When there are 500 news websites, thousands of individually owned so-called news websites, then why someone will come to your website looking for what? So you have to first understand your target audience, then you package your news. When you package, you cannot compromise with the authenticity and correctness of the news. But yes, you can definitely do it in a way that what is called spicing up. Spicing up doesn't mean making it fake news, but spicing up means making it interesting. It's like adding masala to your food. If you add too much of masala, then the food will be harmful for your for the consumers. So you have to understand how much masala, and masala, at no point of time masala means putting wrong information. Second thing is that while the trouble happens when you add the masala. Now I give you an example. uh, for instance, the government has launched a program, and after 2.5 years you do an evaluation, and the evaluation, the result is that the plan has becomes 50% successful. That means the plan has failed 50%. So how do you write the news? Now, depending on your bias for the government, you can say 50% successful, huge success, or the government succeeds 50%. Prime Minister or the Chief Minister gets um, huge applause or something like that. Means you can spice up. Or you, if you hate the government, you can say massive failure, 50% failure. So how, you are saying the same thing. 50% success is also true, 50% failure is also true. But when you put the headline or you send out the information, what you are doing is that you are giving your bias, you are sending out your bias to the viewers. And the viewers may not understand it day one, but 30 days later, 50 days later, 1 year later, they will understand what you are. For instance, again, I'll take Arnab Goswami's name. Today, whatever he says, even the most passionate follower of Arnab Goswami understands that he has a bias for BJP, which is not correct for any journalist. The same way there are some other journalists who would have bias for Congress. Your job is not to have showcase that bias on any platform, whether it's a print platform, whether it's a digital platform, whether it's TV. So your job is to give out first the information, and for your bias you have the edit pages. You can write blogs, you can analyze, you can discuss, but do not try to package. But how do you do that? Means it's quite obvious that on Twitter, when you see that hundreds of people are writing their opinions, you have the tendency to speak out on your Twitter platform, on your, say, for instance, on your social media platform, Facebook, or even you respond to your WhatsApp messages that you feel strongly about. Say, for instance, you feel strongly about car. If you ask me, I am strongly opposed to car because I am an Assamese. I have certain issues with car. My issues may not be the same as those protesting in Shaheen Bagh. So that is my personal opinion. For that, I can write a blog where I can explain why I do not like car. But when I write a story for the magazine or for digital platform or for anyone on car or on any other issue, I have to take back my personal opinion and write the facts as they are, not as I see it. Because do not assume that your readers are fools. Over a period of time they understand, and you have seen how strong Indian democracy is. Quite often they surprise us, the voters surprise us more than we journalists or we so-called experts assume them to be. They understand politics probably far better than us. So it's very important to the over a period of time, as you keep giving them accurate information, you will have a strong support system also for yourself. The people will respect you, and I can vouch for that. Now, many people will say that when you criticize the government, it is not bias. Of course, it is not bias. You have every right to criticize the government, whichever government is in power. But your criticism should be based on, again, the performance or the doings of the government, not because you do not like a particular individual, not because you do not like Narendra Modi, or not because you do not like Rahul Gandhi. That is bias, and you have to understand that. And it's perfectly all right not to dislike, not to like someone or dislike someone. It's perfectly all right. We all are humans. And as a journalist, I'm also an individual, a citizen of this country. I have my issues. I may like a particular party, I may dislike a particular party, or an individual, or an individual politician. It has got nothing to do with your job or profession. You have to, as a human being, you are bound to have biases and opinions and likings and dislikings. But it's like for a doctor, when he treats a patient, he doesn't care about the patient's political affiliation. He may have a particular political affiliation. That patient he would be treating may have allegiance to a particular political group or ideology which he may not be comfortable with. But that doesn't stop him from treating that patient the way he would treat 100 other patients. So this is where the objectivity comes in. As a journalist, you would be under tremendous pressure to give out your opinion or voice your opinion. And there are chances that at times unwittingly you give out that information, that bias you, when you write or when you speak on digital platform, or when you send out your blogs, or not personal blogs but official blogs, your bias can creep into your writings, which that's where you need training. You need training from institutes like the one you are studying in, or teachers like Arjun. They will teach you how to keep that bias away and write the facts. Because if you write the facts, eventually your readers will understand what the real issue is. Go to, again, because we are primarily focusing on digital platform. Now, digital platform, the moment we say digital platform, we do not even consider nowadays the websites run by, say, India Today or Times of India or Hindu or Telegraph. We consider Twitter, Facebook, and the instant messenger services, where you get, most people I speak to nowadays, they say that, okay, I read your story, but someone forwarded it to me, not because they went to India Today website or read the story, or maybe I saw it on Facebook, or I saw a Twitter link. And this is where the whole readership has come to. But at the same time, on Twitter, along with your authentic information, and I'm assuming those who are working in a particular traditional media house, they will have accountability towards their sources and towards their writings. But there are multiple others who are masquerading as news websites, and they are also flooding the Twitter or so other social media platforms. And it is very natural that you get influenced by those as a journalist, as because you feel that, okay, that person may have some interesting sources which I may have missed out. And again, you have the pressure of your back end, that you have to be fast, you have to break stories, you have to give information, and you succumb to that pressure. How do you resist that pressure? It's very, it could be idealistic for me to say that you have to resist that. But I know in a practical world, when you will be, some of you would be working on digital platform, or so the real issue here is to remain unbiased. And to remain unbiased, you have to practice the basic tenets of journalism. What is the base? And it doesn't matter whether you are working in a print media, whether you're working on a television media or on a digital platform. The most important part is to go out for the factual information. And when you go out for factual information, for instance, I'll give another example, and these are more critical on a social media platform or on a digital platform. You must have heard about, all of you have heard about the love jihad thing. Now, if you see the basic premise of the love jihad, it is assumed that a lot of Muslim guys are into a conspiracy to marry or lure Hindu girls and convert them to Islam. That is the basic premise. And to stop that, that
I don't
so-called
fuck
love
with
jihad.
you.
This
Can we,
Pinto
You
guy
little
is,
stupid ass bitch, I ain't fucking with
sorry,
you.
can we remove this person? Uh, Shomita, is it possible to remove Pintu Pandey, whoever he is?
okay,
Thank
he
you.
has been removed.
Yeah.
So
Sorry for being pretty dictatorial.
that's one part of becoming teacher.
No, I don't want to be. Yeah, go
So,
ahead.
now there are two sides, and mostly people like us who are liberal, who are educated, who are qualified, who would be thinking that what crap is this? Means how can people say such things and it's not happening if two individuals are getting married on their own volition? Why should the state or why should the political parties or why should anybody interfere or intervene in this? That is one part of the story. Now, it's very easy to get annoyed with the thing. And as a journalist, I also feel strongly that no such nuisance should happen, that there should not be any law banning such marriages and uh, going into all these things. Now, journalism is in nuances. Now, if you read the UP law, it actually doesn't say, if you have to first analyze the law. When you address an issue, you have to address it from multiple views. You cannot see it as a black and white, that this part I am either on this side or that side. Now, why I'm giving you this example, because this has many layers, and in most issues, on most issues, you will face these kind of layers. Now, the basic premise that these kind of things are happening on a large scale, yes, it is not happening on a large scale. That's a fact. It's not happening as a grand conspiracy. That's also a fact. But at the same time, you cannot discount that it is not happening at all. It is happening. It may be happening here, it may be happening there, and these are individual acts. It's not part of any grand design. As a journalist, you have to expose that also. You cannot be one-sided that, okay, this is not happening at all. You have to tell that, yes, it is happening. These are individual bad elements in the society who try to these kind of things, and he could be from any religion. But yes, the numbers are higher on the Muslim side. That's a fact. That's a plain fact. You are not siding with any religion or any particular group. The statistical information is that it is happening in West Bengal, it is happening in Assam, it is happening in Uttar Pradesh, it is happening in Bihar or Madhya Pradesh. These are the numbers. We have to work hard. You have to work hard on the ground because I struggle a lot to get those information. Then you have to get some anecdotal information also, that if it is happening, how did it happen? 2, 3 examples from this side. But at the same time, you have to tell the people that I am not saying this is happening and this is a part of a grand conspiracy. These are nuisance. Like burglary happens in every part of the country, but that doesn't mean it's an organized conspiracy against house owners. So this is the problem. So the new law has come in. Is it tackling the problem? Yes, the law, if you see the law is not absolutely wrong. There are certain provisions in the law which is fine. You can debate, you can further enhance the law, but the law itself is not wrong. You have to say that also. Where is the problem then? So any law is as good or bad as it is implemented. Here the law, that this particular law, that love jihad, it's not actually love against love jihad, it's actually against conversion by coercion or by fraudulent means, which is perfectly all right. Means there is no need for any person to indulge in malpractices to convert another individual. So if there is a law to prevent that, it's most welcome. But the trouble starts when the law is misutilized. Now, what is happening in Uttar Pradesh is that the problem was not with the law, or maybe it will start happening in Madhya Pradesh, that it is being misutilized by the state government or the police officials against a particular religious group. In this case, it is Muslim. Now you have to write that this is being misutilized. But what happens is that we do not do the hard work part as a journalist also, because we have decided in our mind this is a bad thing. You are not supposed to interfere in two individuals' choice of marriage, right? That's a, on principle, that's a right thing. But there are some malpractices happening. So you have to address that. There is a necessity of a law, but at the same time, when the state government, state agencies are misutilizing, you have to report that. What happens in this case is that when you finally give out the uh, your whole comprehensive facts and the story, the readers, the viewers, the readers on digital platform, they will understand the nuance of it. They will understand where the trouble is, where is the problem, and people themselves start negotiating with things, and they start over a period of then when society goes for a course correction. And do not think that your readers are not mature enough to understand and do the course correction, and they are the people who will eventually vote for those elements. Now you have to understand also certain things, that when we see certain things, that is what a senior journalist had told me, that he was discussing something, and he said that a lot of journalists said that Assam हाथ से निकल गया, which meant that Assam went to the BJP side. Now, किसके हाथ से निकल गया? The issue is किसके हाथ से निकल गया? If Assam people have voted for BJP or UP people have voted significantly for BJP, our job as a journalist is to analyze, understand, and interpret and give out why the people voted for BJP, why people voted for some people who have seemingly said obnoxious things. For instance, someone saying that I will send you to Pakistan, I will kill you, all sorts of obnoxious stuff. If they have said certain things and still they have won, means you have to understand as a journalist, I haven't seen any copy yet. I do not belong to that part. I have no option to go and analyze that because I am already occupied with too many other things. Why a Giriraj Singh wins against Kanhaiya Kumar, who Kanhaiya Kumar on paper said all the right things, and Giriraj Singh probably said all the wrong things, and still he won. But as a journalist, none of us has tried to explain to the reader sitting in Tamil Nadu or sitting in Delhi, or sitting in Assam, who has read both Kanhaiya Kumar and Giriraj Singh on paper, that why this guy lost and the other guy won. So if these things have happened, we have to get into the, most of the time on digital platform, you just on your Twitter handle, you would say that when you get angry with the Love Jihad law, you will simply say, this is bad, UP government is foolish, this, that. But UP government is also doing it for a political reason. And a lot of people in UP government and UP, they support this. I'm not saying that the support is correct. Because majority is doing something, it is the right thing. But as a journalist, we can actually throw light on things, why these things are happening. And if you throw light on that, the society itself will go for the course correction. And when I say society, I include the political establishment also in that, because everybody will understand. Some people may be playing to the gallery, but at least those will also be exposed, because at the same time you can say that, okay, you people voted for this particular group expecting this, but what are they giving you? These things there. And when you say that, you don't need to be biased. You just, if they are giving something that they have genuinely given, state that. Because as a journalist, your job is to give facts to the readers. And if you give facts, everything will happen the way you want, unless you have a twisted mind. Because facts are facts. The right is right. Your right, my right, every right will be right only. So you may have a huge popularity or you may be hated, but eventually the facts that you put out, that will win. And that happens. Like, for instance, you may have seen that Arnab Goswami had a dream run. Like, he had the best channel. He bullied everyone. He did his kind of journalism, and he was the star. And you would start wondering, what's the point? I write non-glorious, objective copies, or I appear on TV and say the hard facts, and nobody watches me. But you will run the long distance, and you will eventually be respected by all. And when I say by all, even the power establishment. The power establishment may not be calling you every day, inviting you for a tea or inviting you for a party or for a chit chat. But the moment you write something, they will take it seriously, because in their mind, they understand that the 20 readers that you have, they trust you. They trust you genuinely, and that trust is unbreakable. That's why there are certain journalists in India still now who have that kind of that kind of followers and who are still trusted as the final word, which are very few. Means I can count them in my fingertips. That few, and I'm talking of entire India. But still, they're existing, and the more the numbers will increase, their numbers will increase. The journalism will get into better hands, and now saturation point is also coming. Don't get into this thinking that in digital platform you have to be the fastest, you have to be you have to be constantly breaking news. Your news will always be broken if you give the hard fact. If you give it information 24 hours later, but the correct information against the flow, most authentic, people will still read and come to you. It may not happen on day one, it may not happen on day two, and I'm telling this from experience. So if you stick to the facts, stick to accuracy, and do your hard work, and do not shy away from hard work. That's the biggest problem. If you think that I have a internet, I have a laptop, I have a good mobile phone, smartphone through which I can do all sorts of journalism, getting information from here and there, you will be in trouble. Today you may succeed, but 10 days later, 10 months later, 1 month later, you will be in trouble. The sheer fun of journalism, and Arjun and I share this, is to be on the ground, to meet people, to understand the developments. That's where the real journalism is there, and that's what you enjoy. And if you do not enjoy that, my advice would be you start seeking another profession, because this profession is not for the glory of a television screen. Otherwise, people like Arjun would have been on the television screen because he was a star when he was on TV. But the real fun for journalism is to be on the ground and to get the information. The kick that you would get out of that is something unmatchable. And then when you file the story, which nobody has, because you have traveled the parts, you have seen the actual thing happening, and you have described the incident, making it come alive. Even if you are describing, think of it this way, even if you are describing a normal accident, one truck colliding with another vehicle, the first example that I gave, you can describe it in such exciting way that people can actually probably see it come alive on their face. You can say multiple other things. You can humanize the story. You can make people cry. And that's where your skill set is required for. And that's why you are taking training. Otherwise, you can just come out of college and join a newspaper or a television, which happens most of the time. Another problem is that we rarely have trained journalists, particularly in digital media. Digital media has become like anybody who has a internet connection and a smartphone, they are a journalist. It's like anybody who can hold a scalpel can do a surgery. It's that dangerous it is, because information is sacrosanct. How you present is sacrosanct. You need training for that. Otherwise, everybody is a journalist in today's world. Anybody with a Twitter handle is a journalist. Anybody on social media is a journalist. Let's not get into that domain. Be very realistic. Do not hope for glamour. Glamour will eventually come. The biggest glamour is that if someone comes to you and tells you, I trust your story, I trust you as a source. That's the certificate you can expect. That's the certificate you should cherish. That's what is the biggest achievement as a journalist. And you should be the journalist who is trusted by the Congress leader, the BJP leader, the CPIM leader, not for being their best buddy, but for being someone who is objective to all of them, who they can trust. If the Congress guy is saying something to you in good faith, it's not your job to go and tell this to the BJP guy to gain something more. It's your job to very politely say, would you like me to divulge whatever I'm discussing with you to a third person? If the person says yes, then you say that, okay, goodbye. 100% people will say no, I would not. So this is where your integrity is important. Confidentiality, like a doctor, you have to maintain, and you have to do your hard work. You will remain unbiased, because I didn't elaborate on this point, but when you go to the ground, you see hard work. Because I can say it from my personal example. I had another issue that I faced was this part of Love Jihad only. When interfaith or intercaste couples were getting killed, there was an incident where a neighbor of a boy who eloped with a girl from a different religion was killed by some Yuva groups, vigilante groups. Now, it struck me why the neighbor would be killed. The parents could have been killed, the uncles could have been killed, family members could have been killed. Why the neighbor? And when I went to the ground, because the story was published, neighbor was killed, it was a plain case of interreligious intolerance and love jihad or whatever. But when I went to the ground and I investigated it for 2 days, what I found was fascinating. It was a very different kind of social tension, and it was a case of an individual who was already a bombastic person. This whole elopement was just an excuse. The real intent was actually to kill that man because he had certain issues, irrespective of his religion. Now, the real fact is this: whole world got to know it as a story of love jihad, whereas this story was about a individual social reputation where he had actually invited trouble for himself. I'm not justifying the killing. What I am saying is that real reason behind the killing is different. So every time you go and investigate and go deep into the case, for instance, Arjun can elaborate you on that someday during the classroom also, or he may already have explained. When we first investigated the Bodo violence, the root of the violence was completely different, but it was seen as a ethnic conflict between the Bodos and the Muslims. It was a fight over a piece of land. Simple, a piece of land. There was no religion involved in it, but the whole world, even today, didn't know it as a ethnic or communal clash. So you have to
I'm sorry to
understand these
interrupt.
things.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Kaushik. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt. I take this opportunity to say that me and Kaushik are face to face is probably because of him, for him saving my life at 1 in the night in the middle of a tumultuous riot where not only bullets were shot at each other, but bows and arrows were also there. But on that note, it was extremely important that you said those words. I have a few questions coming on the chat box. For
Yeah.
the next 15, 20 minutes, if you can relate your replies or responses to those questions,
Sure, sure.
I'll quickly take the questions one by one. Abhishek Kumar has asked, these days, audiovisual content dominates our interaction with news stories. What kind of skill set should budding journalists focus on to keep the joy and significance of reading alive? Two, Ridhima has asked, what should be the writing format? How different should it be for the same piece of information? Can you read the questions from the chat box, Kaushik?
I
For
haven't checked. Let me.
just click on the chat box. And Ridhima's question is, what should be the writing format? How should it be different in newspaper, magazine, and in digital platform for the same story?
No, I haven't seen the
No
questions.
worries. We will take them.
So I'll
Someone has
I'll
asked.
go one by
Yeah,
one.
you take these two first. Yeah.
First question is that when audio visuals are dominating, what kind of skill set you need
You
to
said,
attract
and the two
viewers?
is for what? For
Reading
the same story,
writing skills
how do you write differently for the three media?
for the.
Print, television, and digital.
Okay, okay. So for audio visual, obviously you need to know how to speak fluently. That's the very basic skill set you would need. When you speak fluently, you may be like I do not have that skill set. You may have seen during the speech also I have repeated things, or I may not have gone as coherent as I would have wished. When I write, I would be a completely different individual. So I understand my strength that I do not have the audio visual skill set. So I will stick to print. But when I see a video or audio, I would first your command over the language. You need to understand how to speak in simple and short language. Then you need to know how to be interesting to engage the viewer. You cannot be deadpan like Manmohan Singh was. Sorry to take his name, but you need to understand how to engage the reader and viewer, and that skill set will come from watching good videos. And you yourself check out like on a day. You just check out when you sit with your videos, your whenever whatever you check news, just keep noting the videos that you like, save them somewhere, and when you have free time, watch them, and you will understand what all attracted you. And you would ask yourself, why did you like that video? Why did you like that particular presenter? Apart from he's a good face. But if someone has appealed to you, or you have enjoyed the conversation, or whatever speech or whatever information he has given out through the video and the audio, you try to note down. You ask yourself, first become a viewer or a reader, and then you can become a good journalist. That is for audio video skill set. About writing for different platforms, you have to, again, I mentioned in the beginning, you have to understand your audience or readers. Like for me, I write for India Today magazine, English. So my readers are based in metros, some metros. So I have to understand what will appeal to them. They would not be interested in knowing things that are happening in a remote village, or which may not concern their lifestyle. So the kind of lifestyle they live, depending on that, and you have to understand that someone who will pay 75 rupees or 100 rupees to buy India Today print and will read at home, he will have some time. So you can give him some comprehensive information, and obviously that person would be getting definitely newspapers at home, so he knows the daily update of the event, what is happening. So there is no point for me to give out to him instant information. I have to make sense of that information that he misses out on a daily newspaper or television channel. That if he has been flooded with 50 stories on car or love jihad, my job is to give in that particular week that these things have dominated the news course. So I will explain these things to you, and you will I will make sense of these things for you, how, what is in the background, why it happened. So that's how you have to differentiate. In a newspaper, you have to give information slightly comprehensive, more comprehensive than what you give out on a digital platform, where he doesn't have much time and where he have multiple options, and package it in a nice way. You have to say in 800 words, 500 words, you have to give out the daily the developments over the day. On a digital platform, your first and foremost importance is to grab his attention. That's where headline writing skill is counted. You have to be very good at writing headlines without spicing it up in a negative way. You have to spice it up, but spice it up in a way that it attracts the readers. And you have to again understand who your reader is, whether he would be reading in a village, or whether he would be reading in a metro. If you're writing in English, your readers will be in metro, so you have to change your headline in a way. And if you're writing in a vernacular medium, your readership will be in a village or in a remote area, where it's better to become more colloquial, or put it in a language or phrases that he or she would understand. So this is a simple tactic. At the same time, when you are a journalist, you have to be a marketing person also. How you sell your story without resorting to any malpractice. Yes, Arjun. You're mute.
Sorry, yeah. The next two, Anshuman has asked, how relevant do you find George Orwell's quote? If thought corrupts language, language can also corrupt thoughts. I take that question separately for you, and then we'll go to the next question.
I think I have answered that question. It's absolutely relevant. It's always relevant. I always believe that the sanctity of language, whether you are giving a political speech or whether you are writing a story, it's very important to maintain that sanctity. If you write bad language, if you say it in a negative way or in a very disrespectful way, it speaks more about yourself than about the person reading or about the person you are writing about.
I can share an interesting episode. During my BBC days in London, it was a very chilly winter morning, and quite a few of my colleagues there were rushing out from their desks. And I was curious, in turn, sort of asking them what happened. They said there's a statue being put outside. You can go and check out. I went outside, and I found George Orwell's statue being put outside the BBC's Portland office. Now, incidentally, to tell the students, Orwell had also worked with the BBC as a journalist, criticized the BBC vehemently, and the BBC had enough guts to take him and keep him respectfully outside their main headquarters in London. I doubt how much of that we can do, but I found that a very interesting gesture, and which also sent a strong message that criticism or dissent, if it's factual, if it's logical, as Kaushik was mentioning, if it's based on facts, then it really has some ground of understanding and acceptance.
Yes.
I will take
If
the
you put
next question.
if you put
Yeah, please go ahead.
facts on Twitter handles, you have very little chance of getting trolled if you put only facts. But if you twist it with your personal bias, obviously others will also put across biases. But if you simply put fact and people observe you, even political groups, trollers, everybody observes your Twitter handle. 20 days they will observe that this guy, if you put facts, you would not favor anyone. You would not be nice to anyone. You would not favor, or you would not be wrong to anyone. So people accept you the way you are, and you would be left alone. Means you would be in peace.
We'll take the next question. Vedant is asking, in a democracy, press conference is an integral part. We haven't seen a single press conference of the Prime Minister. Instead, we have seen many scripted interviews. Your take on press conference versus scripted interviews? That's an interesting question. But I think that's putting you into trouble.
I'm not afraid of anything. You can
No, no,
put it to
no.
the Honorable Prime
Yeah,
Minister,
let's keep it
but
academic.
yes, he should take instant questions. He has developed this new technique of making journalists irrelevant, thinking that why should I communicate via journalists? I would communicate with people directly. Now, the problem with this is that, okay, that part is fine. You are communicating whatever you want to say. You have been saying it directly. But whatever you want to hear, you are not getting that. Of course, you are getting that because social media is a two-way platform there. But mostly, what happens is that your followers will say, "Oh, you are great, sir," or the people who will hate you will say, "Oh, you are nasty, you are bad, you are the worst thing to happen to this country." Neither is true. Means you are not the greatest, you are not the worst. But uh, our job used to be earlier that we would give out the real picture. I expect that to happen, but it's also unfortunate that I have to add that journalists are also nowadays they do not perform their duty as they should, because there will be a set of journalists who will go to a press conference and will ask the question that will help the prime minister, and another set of journalists will go to a press conference and ask the prime minister, whosoever, those questions which are loaded questions. Our job is to put the right tough questions, which will make him answer. If he is good, he will look good. If he hasn't done well, he will be exposed. Our job is done for the people.
I have two more questions, and then the dean is asking you to tell us what had happened in 2012 with the Boro event, how you saved my life. I can see that in the chat. But let's first take the questions. I have vivid memories of that. Vedant is again asking, as digital journalism is becoming popular among youngsters, will this lead to a decline in television viewership?
That's very difficult. I cannot actually predict the future. That will depend on how much penetration we have of digital media. For instance, when we talk about this thing, if digital media is moving so much and will it lead to a decline and all that, we are only focusing on the urban areas or areas where there is internet. In India, there is still so many areas, and there are multiple demographics where internet is not as popular as it should be. The penetration is very little till now, despite optic fiber, broadband, everything. There are many areas where television is the only source of entertainment. The DTH penetration is far higher. And I'm saying this from my experience because I travel a lot. I face issues in many parts of the country, remote countries, where forget about 4G, I do not even get 2G internet. I get disconnected. There are multiple areas in this country till now where you can at least watch the television. So, yes, television may be less relevant in urban areas, in metros, and peripheral areas, but it might grow in relevance in certain other areas. So, as you have seen that television is also moving more regional. So, the trouble will be for people like I and Arjun, who earn their bread by working in English media, English
Yeah.
medium, which is declining, which is sad.
This is a pet question. I think you would love to respond to this. Ridhima is asking. It's an important question also. How much do editorial illustrations, how important are they to the text that is put next to them in Indian print and digital media?
Very important because illustration, photographs, graphics. I work under Mr. Arun Puri, and I'm delighted and I'm honored to work under him. And I'm not saying this because he's owner of India Today Group and I work under the group, because I can vouch for this. He is the most objective journalist anybody would see in India, because he asks the most basic question. His always focus is on what the readers will read and what the readers will understand, and whether the readers will be comfortable reading the text and the graphic. And he doesn't have anything to do with, till now. I have worked with India Today for almost 15 years. He has never asked me to change a word or text unless it is grammatically incorrect or something which is not a great language. But he would never ask me to change anything that I would write about any politician, this side, that side. That's objective journalism. And at the same time, he has taught me the importance of, and not me, all of us who work in India Today
Yes.
Group, particularly in the magazine, the importance of visualizing stories, how to present it for the readers where he's comfortable reading. If you sent out a 5,000 word document without any illustration, without any graphic, the readers may not have the time and patience for, because for journalists, for us, news is everything. But for a normal reader who is into other profession, news is just another thing in life, not the most important and most crucial thing in life. So he will read or buy or consume news only when it appeals to him. So it's my job to make it appealing. So it's very important. Illustration, graphic, photographs, contextualizing the story through these, it's very important. And add to that the data science, which is coming in a big way.
Right. Kaushik, we'll take one last question before we get into this our story bit and then wrap up the session. Shouradip Dey, one of our students, have asked, does the various financial investors of media houses intervene in the news that the house produces? If yes, in which way and to what extent?
I can answer only for my own group. I have never faced any pressure from anyone. And I'm saying this not because it's a nice thing to say, it's a cool thing to say, but it's a fact. And I can vouch for it. And it's a real fact. I have worked with India Today magazine for 15 years. And not a single time a story of mine was dropped or a sentence of mine was changed, or I have come under any particular pressure not to write or say anything against anyone or say something favorable for someone. On that part, I have remained absolutely independent, free, and not me. The entire India Today magazine, at least I can vouch for the magazine. I'm not talking about any other thing. The magazine has remained most neutral, most objective, and without any pressure. If we can put Modi on the cover and say nice things about him, and we can put him on the cover and say ugly things about him. If you take out India Today for last 14 years, if we have said great things about Modi, we have also put Rahul Gandhi on cover saying good things about him, and during the same period. And I have to give credit to all of them. Nobody has called us, at least not my editor, not me, saying that you said this bad thing to me, or saying nice thing to us for writing something good for them. So I think that way we are pretty comfortable and having great time.
I
Thank
will
you.
leave it to the dean now. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. Thank you, Mr. Deka, for that story. I wanted it to come out because it was they must also know, the students must also know the trouble that the journalists take. It is not that the power of your pen, it is not the power of your camera, that, and it's also not the power of your voice that creates. You really go out and do the stuff. That's why I wanted you to tell the story. So students, a lot of aspiring journalists are there. They must know that there is a lot of jhamela that you need to take up if you are going to be there. And you have almost touched upon everything, Mr. Deka, from objectivity to headlines to marketing, everything you have touched upon. It was an enriching experience for me. I'm sure it would be an enriching experience for the students also. Thank you so much, and thank you, Arjun, for also directing it in the right way. And we have certainly gained from your interaction. We would love you to come to the campus when the campus opens up. A personal interaction is far more, and also we have a lovely television studio. We are waiting for that to be utilized also, since we haven't been able to use it much. So it's an invitation to you. Whenever you are in Calcutta, please do let us know. And if the situation happens, we would also like to invite you to the campus and come and directly interact with the students. Over to you,
Surely, ma'am.
Arjun, to
Thank you, Kaushik. Thank you, ma'am, for those kind words.